Hi, I'm Ross Merriam,
And I'm Ryan Overturf.
and welcome to Versus Live, brought to you by StarCityGames.com. As you can see, today we're doing things a little bit differently. There's apparently a rash of illness going through Roanoke, so my lovely co-hosts are not here today. Filling in, we have Ryan Overturf. How are you doing, Ryan?
Great. I got here apparently into town just in time to get sick for the Invitational.
And over here in the booth, we have Emma Handy.
Hi, I am going to be filling in the booth today, and I will be taking all of your questions that you might have. Make sure and at SCG Tour if you maybe want to have that answered on stream by us.
Yes, and please send your best wishes to Todd Anderson and Brad Nelson, who aren't feeling so well today. Todd has been sick for a while, actually. He wasn't feeling well last week, was able to power through, but today didn't feel quite as good. And Brad is actually suffering from their first documented case of a person being lit up so hard they suffer a sustained fever. So please, hopefully that $500 check he's going to get from quarterfinals will afford some ice baths, and he can feel better in time for the invitation.
I'm just surprised it took humanity this long for that to be the first documented case.
Yeah, you know, some things don't get written down. They're a little bit... they're just so horrific for the victim in question. We don't want to put them through it.
Diagnosed so quickly that I believe it must have happened before. But
well, you know it when you see it.
Sure.
Okay, so today we're going to be playing a bit of Modern in preparation for the Invitational this weekend at SCGCon Winter. I am going to be playing my deck from this last weekend, which I was fortunate to carry to first place. So it is going to be Izzet Phoenix, a deck that a lot of people ask me about, a deck that is surprisingly complicated in its play patterns, a lot of intricate sequencing with the cantrips, and hopefully we'll get to display that today. And I'll be running it through a gauntlet of decks. What do you got on your side, Ryan?
I'll be starting with a Bant Spirit strategy. This one's been picking up in popularity. It was the most represented deck on day 2 this weekend, I believe.
So, yeah.
Really powerful stuff. A lot of players have been picking this up over Humans, so it's a deck you can expect to face at your Modern tournaments you have in the near future. I have a Grixis Death Shadow deck. That's one that's kind of a fringe element in Modern, but it's really powerful.
Yeah, and one that I think is pretty well positioned right now. The metagame's turned towards a more linear direction. And Grixis Shadow is historically good against those decks. Got a fast clock, a lot of disruption, and varied disruption between the discard spells, good removal, and stubborn denials. So you can disrupt from a lot of different angles. It's also a matchup that I'm particularly scared of on my side. I was able to actually beat Max Medeiros, whose list you'll be playing in the semifinals. Got a little fortunate in game 2 of our match, and they just have such good removal against my threats. Like one of the reasons that Thing in the Ice is so good right now is that Fatal Push is at an all-time low, and they have both Fatal Push and Dismember. So I think it's a pretty well-positioned deck, and I wanted to put the Izzet Phoenix deck to a real test there. And then what do we got coming up last?
Then we have Brad Nelson's Jeskai Control.
Yes, the plan here was to get a little bit of a rematch with Brad in your seat. That didn't come to fruition, so unfortunately I won't get a third victory there, but... The control matchup is super interesting. The games tend to go very long. My quarterfinals match against Brad held true to that. I've historically, in my testing, been very good against Azorius. The Jeskai matchup's a little bit harder because their burn lets them get aggressive sometimes and just lets them more efficiently keep the battlefield clear in the early turn so that they can set up a Planeswalker or eventually transform, search for Azcanta, and then start gaining traction with their card advantage elements.
Yeah, Path to Exile is definitely the most important removal spell. That's why Azorius tends to have overlapping elements, Detention Sphere, where you can kind of compound that. So the Lightning Bolts aren't as powerful against Arclight Phoenix. They don't do it against Thing in the Ice, but you can buy turns against the Phoenixes with Lightning Bolts, Lightning Helixes.
And that is really important in the matchup, at least in my experience. Just them setting up that card advantage engine, then getting to untap and snowball from there. And I was able to keep Brad from doing that in most of the games that we played, and hopefully I'll get to do the same to you today.
Well, I would say that I have added pressure representing Brad in this matchup, but I hope if I win or I lose, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, Brad lost twice, so the bar's pretty low.
Yeah, it's like there's actually less pressure. If Brad can't do it, then if I do it, great, I'll be a hero, and if I don't, whatever.
There we go. Like you win, and if you're like, wow, I'm better than Brad Nelson, and if you lose, you're like, yeah, I mean, I'm worse than Brad Nelson. What do you want from me?
Well, whatever.
Well, the same as Brad Nelson. You still might be better. You're just not. You're not past the threshold.
When it comes to this one test, Brad and I got the same result.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love for this gauntlet how Ross just wanted to have 3 decks that he beat. He just goes, I really want to run the gauntlet, especially the things that I know I was able to just crush. We really need to see if I can, go for the XP here.
To be fair, I did not play against this Bant Spirits list in the tournament. I did beat it once from someone else over the course of it, but the Grixis list I'm scared of. That matchup is tough. They've got a lot of things going on.
Yeah, Grixis Shadow is one of those decks that sometimes you draw an opening hand and it's just like, why does anybody play anything but this? And sometimes you draw your 6th land and you're like, this deck is unplayable.
It's nice. Sometimes you get to play Legacy and sometimes you don't get to play anything.
Yeah.
Isn't that a lot of decks in Modern?
That's true.
Like my deck does similar things. Sometimes you're 3 turns into the game and you have 2 Arclights and a Transform Thing in the ice. Sometimes you're 3 turns of the game and you're dead.
Yeah, I play a lot of the Phoenix decks in Magic Online, and sometimes I just look at my cards in the library. It's like, 33. I'm probably doing some pretty good stuff. No, I've drawn 20 cantrips.
10 lands. And 3 lightning bolts.
Yep.
Something just feels smart about Thought Scour. You just get to feel real clever. Yes, I don't even care. I want them in my graveyard. Let's do this.
You feel really clever every time you mill over a Phoenix. I'll tell you that.
That is true.
Yeah.
You do like feeling clever.
It's the most important feeling in Magic, really.
Yeah. Magic, life, same thing, really.
Exactly.
Okay.
So should we get to it then?
Yeah, let's get into it. We'll do odd or even. Which one you want?
I want odd.
Okay.
Nailed it. I'll play first.
Ooh, nailed that one too. No rust here.
Well, this is my first ever game with Bant Spirits.
Okay. We'll see how it goes. How's your hand?
It appears keepable. As such, I will keep it.
My hand also keepable.
It's an interesting sequencing decision with this hand against these two, but given the entire composition, I believe that my play is supposed to be Mausoleum Wanderer.
Okay. I'm going to... start on a Spirebluff Canal and pass the turn.
Ross, just a heads up. I want you to know how the chat feels right now. They are very excited for you to draw nothing but lands. I mean, they are stoked about it.
I will play Cavern of Souls. I will name Spirit.
Okay. When you say the chat, do you mean the actual body of the people in there or just Brad?
I'm the voice of the chat, and I'm excited to see you draw lands.
Okay, so just you then.
Well,
I will cast Supreme Phantom.
Who knows?
I will respond to that with a gut shot on this Wanderer, going to 18.
I would like you to pay 1 more for that.
I'll decline.
All right, your turn.
It's what open champions are made of.
You got a bolt for this one, too?
No, but I have an opt on the end step
right.
because I really want to have a bolt for it.
Reasonable.
And that's not a bolt, and I don't have time to cast that cantrip, so let's bottom it.
Also reasonable.
That's not bad. Hopefully we'll set that one up. And I will
Miss your land.
play a mountain and bolt that Supreme Phantom.
Had it all.
Just what open champions are made of.
And pass the turn. This matchup is a lot about just staying ahead of their battlefield and then eventually establishing something really powerful. It's especially true with the Lords, because if they get 2 of them, sometimes your lightning bolts can get turned off, and then you need to transform a thing in the ice, which can be difficult against the combination of Path Exile and Reflector Mage.
So that actually kind of goes into something that chat was wondering. How do you feel about Crackling Drake versus Bedlam Reveler, and why?
I prefer Crackling Drake by a wide margin for a few reasons. The primary one is that Bedlam Reveler does not play well with a deck that has such a high density of blue cantrips. Because those cantrips keep cards in your hand, you never get to the point where the Bedlam Reveler's trigger is netting you card advantage. At that point, if that's the case, Crackling Drake, which comes down on similar turns, it's really hard to play a Bedlam Reveler before turn 4 is going to be bigger, have evasion, net card advantage where one doesn't, and ignore graveyard hate.
Is the second reason that you won an open with Crackling Drake?
No, the second reason was going to be graveyard hate, but I lumped it all in together.
I think you're missing cause and effect here, right? Like, which one did you win the open with, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I like the one that I won the tournament with.
I mean,
All right, my turn kind of has a decision. I don't think it's actually interesting or close. I'm going to start with Supreme Phantom.
That is going to resolve.
I will crack this Flooded Strand. I am at 19 life.
19, playing another Mausoleum Wanderer.
I will grab my favorite land in all of Magic: The Gathering.
what?
Basic Plains.
No one's laughing. You can't just lie to the people like that, Ryan.
It's out there.
Really,
And,
he's just lying to himself.
I'm going to cast Ether Vial.
That's fine.
Pass turn.
Okay. I am going to end step a Thought Scour on myself.
Resolves.
Mill over a Thought Scour and a Thing in the Ice. That is not a good draw.
Is it not a Lightning Bolt?
Correct.
Nice.
Okay. I have not hit my third land drop, which is awkward, but now I think I have to start working towards a Thing in the Ice, so let's play that and pass the turn.
1.
Got 3 in your hand over there?
Correct.
That's not a ton.
Also correct.
So, Russ, why did you have the Abrade in your sideboard over maybe an Ancient Grudge and then some sort of green shock land in the main deck to flash it back? What's the thought there?
There's not a lot of decks where Grudge is absolutely necessary. Like Affinity is low. That kind of effect isn't great against Ironworks. So the versatility of Abrade in the Vial matchups, you'll see me bring in here against Spirits and Humans, is really important. That makes Abrade a very valuable card and certainly better than Grudge, even before you factor in the necessity to splash, because any additional shockland or additional color is a big cost in this deck where you need to be able to cast a lot of spells in one turn. And sometimes those spells are slanted towards blue, sometimes they're slanted towards red. So having a flexible mana base is important.
Yeah, Abrade also just overperforms. It's an excellent card. I think it's underplayed in the format.
I considered making a copy.
Yeah.
It's the point where you care about the versatility more than the power of each effect.
Yep.
So my hand technically has some bluff equity, but it's not worth it because of the card Manamorphose. If I was inexperienced in this matchup, I might be doing things a little bit differently here, but I know how powerful that deck is, even missing land drops.
Fetch brings Ryan to 18 here. So we got 18 all. Does this say main phase Coco or?
No, I'm just casting Drawspell Captain and jamming for 3. 2.
2, yeah.
2 is the one.
So I'll go to 16.
It's your turn.
And this could be leaving up a Path to Exile.
Who knows?
No one knows. Okay, I'm not under a ton of pressure here. I could be like with a Collected Company, but I believe Ryan would have cast that this turn or left it up to potentially to Spellqueller. So I don't think he has Company. Decent chance he has a Path to Exile. Looking at just the one card. Regardless, I think I can take another turn off to play another thing, which will help insulate me against a Path to Exile. And then pass the turn, start working on both of these.
Vials to 2.
Yep. Notably, Aether Vial, pretty good against Thing in the Ice. Another reason that Abrade is really important. Dealing with the Vial makes your things a lot more impactful.
5 damage.
That'll bring me to 11.
And this is not a good draw step, but I'll play the Seachrome Coast and pass.
Yeah. On your end step, I'll cast an Opt and trigger my things.
Makes sense.
I don't have a way to put Arclight Phoenix in the graveyard, so let's bottom that one.
You can
Looking for
cast
more
it if you
spells.
find a land.
Why do you even put it in your deck if you don't want to draw it?
Okay. Thought I was a Moto for a second there.
A little Scrybug.
Just a little Scrybug. Okay. And this is a turn where I'm going to need to chain into more cantrips, which is why we try to hold our opts, although I did just draw a million of them.
Weird flex, but okay.
That does not count. That will play. So I'll play this land, play a Swift Spear, and attack for 1.
I have no blocks.
Brings you to 17.
Correct.
Pass the turn. On your upkeep, I will lightning bolt the Droxclaw Captain and trigger these.
This resolves.
So I waited on this lightning bolt rather than potentially getting extra damage in because Ryan could have had Collected Company there that I could respond to, or he could have vialed in another Supreme Phantom or a Phantasmal Image, and I could have also responded to that.
All right.
I don't
Do
think
you have
the
how
1
many
point is
cards
that
in
relevant.
hand?
I have 2.
All right. So these will be transforming on Ross's turn. There's almost no question about that. Theoretically, it's happening on my turn. So you can recast the Swift Spear. This is 14-15 as it stands. I know that this card will be in my hand when the Awoken Horrors show up, so that's an argument to leave Vial on 2, and I don't yet have reason to put it to 3, so I'm going to keep it parked there.
And Spellcrawler's Flash, you can still cast that if it gets bounced.
And I will attack for 1.
I'm at 10.
I will pass turn.
So I know I put a Serum Visions on the bottom of my deck earlier off a Scry. I've also put an Arclight Phoenix there, but I think shuffling 1 good card and 1 bad card in and taking
I
a bad card
will
out.
respond to your
good.
fetch.
Okay. Huh.
That's a yikes is what that is.
Would you like to search?
This is the most valuable Scalding Tarn of all time. It's giving you 3 lands.
That's pretty strong.
It's like Assaulting Tarn, really.
Okay.
Yeah, that was not the worst draw step I could have had.
It's no Seachrome Coast, but
It was
it works its butt off.
arguably better than the
So
Seachrome
I'm going to
Coast
get
was.
Island Mountain off the pass, and then a tap Steam Vents off the fetch land. I still have 1 basic, and I would prefer it to be an island if I draw Flooded Strand or Polluted Delta. So I can get maybe a necessary untapped land for 1 life. And
Well,
I'm at
can we get a judge in
Yeah.
here to exile these thing in the ices?
Ricky's somewhere, probably.
This is how you win opens.
Yep. Why do you think I splashed for Colligan's command? So 9 to 17 we have now?
That's what I have, yes.
Okay, this might just turn into a race, and hopefully the top of Ryan's deck is not very good.
I'm hoping just for a Collected Company and then 7 cards down, another Collected Company.
I'm
some
hoping-
creatures in between.
I'm hoping for a Faithless Looting.
That's where a lot of good things start.
That is a somewhat interesting one, and I think it's better to cast it for the 2 cards. So let's play Phoenix, attack for 4,
I'm at 13.
and just hard cast this Strata Course.
Sure.
Now I kind of wish I'd done it first, but that's okay. I'm going to hold this land, maybe discard 2 Eluding, and pass the turn.
I gotta figure Vial on 3 is in the aggregate better than 2. It's a higher number. It's my justification. That
You
was
really need
not
the
a
extra
good
mana here.
draw. So,
Anything but Collected Company or Geist of St. Trapped, please.
I don't think I have good blocks or attacks.
That's good for me.
You have 3 cards in hand.
I guess I could have played this land because I have 2 4s in my hand. So if I drew an untapped land, I could play them both.
Play it, you won't.
What card would you not cast here, other than a card with Flash? That
I
you
don't
might just
know.
leave up.
Path to Exile.
Ryan is not the kind of creature that can block warriors.
I'm a coward because I'm not playing this.
I mean, there are a few people here. Did I stutter? Is that...
So 9. I have 13. I don't know. When blocks are bad, may as well get in.
I like that. 8. Is
I'll
that
pass
a coward
turn.
move, Emma? Or is that a...
I mean,
I need a pretty good draw step next turn, and I need Ross to have just nothing somehow.
That was a good draw step.
Can theoretically get through the term. That's about all this is looking at.
I'm going to main phase this Crackling Drake. Might hit spells I can cast to trigger prowess. Let's draw a card. That's also a good draw.
play it, you won't.
You're 13. Attack you for 4.
Activate Vial.
Sure.
All right, no blocks.
Go to 9. Pass the turn.
Hmm.
Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's convenient.
Bedlam Riddler would only cost 2 right now.
So you have a lethal Crackling Drake.
Reveler, I think, would be slightly better. Would be better than Kraken Drake here, but both of them are excellent. So I'm not sweating it.
But you could win more.
Must be.
You could go from 4 cards in hand to 3 cards in hand, Ross. Come on.
I'm gonna pass here. Kind of needed exactly Collected Company.
Anamorphose.
Resolves.
Make blue red.
Good choice. I support your decision.
Playing Arclight Phoenix.
Resolves.
Bolt your Supreme Phantom.
Respond.
Sure.
I mean, I'm still dead. But
Still before the bolt. Lightning Axe, the captain discarding on Arclight
now
Phoenix.
I'm really dead.
Return the Arclight.
Still going, huh?
Yeah. We like to play games to the completion here on Versus Live.
Yeah.
Ryan.
The extra 5 seconds were meaningful.
They were for me.
All right, that's fair. Wouldn't want to take anything away from you, champ.
Okay, we're going to take a quick 3-minute break here while we got our sideboards straight. Please get your questions into Emma there in the chat, tagging at SCG Tour, and we'll see you in a few.
All right, we're back looking at some sideboards. I'm looking at some pretty light sideboarding, taking out these Phantasmal images. They're quite poor against Gutshot. In game 1, I had difficulty keeping any creature on the battlefield, and I'm not too interested in cloning yours.
Yeah.
Thalia seems really good here. It is worth noting that this sideboard has, count 'em, 3 Rest in Peace. This number is wrong in this matchup.
Yeah.
I would not bring in all 3. I would not bring in 2. I thought about 1. Ultimately, what it boils down to is I don't think I have a card that I care about less than Rest in Peace in my main deck that I'm not already boarding out, just these ones. If I control Thalia, you're not getting an Arclight Phoenix back anyway. It's just not going to happen. This doesn't do anything against your Drakes, against your Thing in the Ices. And my deck is also, if it's doing its thing, I'm trying to have air superiority. I'm going to be able to engage in combat favorably against Arclight Phoenixes. I'm trying to path them, what have you, anyway. And if I'm not doing my thing, I'm losing. So what's Rest in Peace going to help, really?
Yeah, I agree. I can tell you, this is the matchup I've played the most in the 2 tournaments I've played now with Phoenix, and I've been turned to Rest in Peace several times, and every time I'm very happy to see it.
Yeah.
Because that means I'm not under any pressure. I usually then have the window to just play a Thing in the Ice, and now they are the ones that sort of have to react. I have some initiative. It's just not a very effective card. Sometimes I trim an Arclight if my opponents insist on bringing in the Graveyard Hate, and maybe trim a Looting too, but at this point it's just been so ineffective every time it's been cast against me that I ignore it. So I like not bringing it in. There's a few other cards in your sideboard that are close, but no cigars. So light sideboarding here. I approve. I think you just need to apply a lot of pressure and really commit to your aggressive game plan. And Thalia is a really good supplement to that. On my side, bring in a bunch of ways to kill creatures. Makes sense, right?
That tracks.
We got 3 braids. I noted the importance of Aether Vial in this matchup as well as humans. So that was the impetus really for adding the 3rd of braid, was how important it was in these matchups, which are pretty popular. The Angers are okay in this matchup. It's awkward against a deck that can play so much at instant speed, but it is a very good reset button for any time you get double Drogskull Captain going, and sometimes you just fall behind and just need an effect like this. It can obviously be awkward with Arclight Phoenix, but usually you're playing a little bit slower in the post-board games anyway. If you have Arclight, you probably don't need to Anger. You can spend a turn blocking with it and go from there.
It's something you have a lot of control over, too.
Yeah.
You see all these elements available. It's not like you have to bring back Arclight Phoenix, because it requires casting 3 spells. You can choose to not cast a 3rd one.
Yeah, you often go like turn 2 Thing in the Ice, turn 3 Anger what you have, turn 4. Now I'll go for my my Arclights. That's a pretty ideal curve. So, still a good card. We're bringing out the Swift Spears, which do not engage in combat that well. Just not a great matchup for them. Also can be a little awkward with Anger. The Chart, of course, is a card that I bring out a lot. I just want to bring out 2-mana spells when I'm bringing in more expensive cards. You want to keep the curve as lean as possible when you're playing Arclight Phoenix and Thing in the Ice. And I trim a couple cantrips in anticipation of Thalia. You don't want these hands that are just filled with 1-mana cantrips where you're spinning your tires for a long time, because Thalia really punishes that. So we trim down on a couple. Against humans, I usually trim down in ways to mitigate the effects of Meddling Mage as well, but here we'll just trim the worst one. There's also, if they happen to bring in Rest in Peace, Thought Scour becomes strictly worse than Opt.
It's also a situation where in the post-forward configurations against the creature-heavy decks, you don't want to draw 4 cantrips and have that be your hand, where you just need them to hit something. You want to have something and some cantrips.
Yes, exactly. So we're adjusting a bit, having more removal, fewer cantrips, and being a little bit more controlling here. The post-board games, we won't be as explosive, but we don't need to be. Got any questions over there for us, Emma?
Oh, we have so many.
So many questions.
So many. This is my favorite part. I'm not on camera, and I really need some attention. So, jumping into those, Ross, why don't you have Young Pyromancer in your deck?
Young Pyromancer is a fairly underpowered card in Modern because you don't have the same density of free spells as you do in Legacy, namely Daze and Force of Will. So it's really hard to run out a Young Pyromancer early and get some significant value from it. And it also plays incredibly awkwardly with Thing in the Ice.
All right. This one's for the room. This one's for the room. What's the worst piece of sideboard tech you've played this year?
In any format?
Oh, look, it's an open-ended question.
This year, though.
This year. That's
The
the
calendar year or the last 365 days?
You know what? Dealer's choice.
Okay.
We'll give you the Invitational last year is the only tournament that that adds, I guess.
I try a lot of different things when I build decks, so I'm sure there's a good answer that I have somewhere in my brain.
I have one that I almost played because I misread the card. I almost sideboarded a Silumgar Sorcerer in Humans.
What?
I misread that it only counters creatures.
Yeah.
You thought the card was just straight up cancel with upside?
Yeah.
When you read the card over, I didn't really think about it that much, but, I didn't end up registering it, so no harm, no foul.
I know the worst sideboard card I ever played all time in Devotion Standard when I was messing with Red Devotion because it was quite good against Black Devotion because Chain to the Rocks kind of colded them. There was no Chain to the Rocks adjacent effect for red decks, and so I played one sideboard, Iona's Judgment or Angelic Edict, whatever the card was. It's just 5 mana, exile target creature or enchantment, and the only time I ever drew it, my opponent thought seized me, and that's the card they took, because it would have hit their demon relevantly.
Sounds like you sideboarded a great card.
Yeah, I guess it was a good one. That's a bad answer, I suppose.
Really good limited. First pick limited card.
It was. It's just a clean removal spell.
Yeah.
All right, Ross, why this coward split between Chart of Course and Izzet Charm?
Hold on. Hold on. First, you need to answer the previous question.
I do?
Yeah, you said it was for the room. You're in the room.
Hello.
Oh, yikes.
That's how this works.
Oh, yikes. I have played some god-awful decks this year. Honest to there. Probably something in the blue-black God Pharaoh's Gift deck right after Rivals came out.
Demure God Pharaoh's Gift.
Demure God Pharaoh's Gift. Hey, no, not that wasn't the branding at the time.
Yeah, but it is now.
It is now? All right. Sorry, I'm new to this, Ross. I appreciate you mentoring me as I stall and avoid the question. This is coward split.
Okay, I'll let you dodge this one, but be forewarned. It is not a coward split. When your deck has 37 cantrips and you see half your deck every game, diversifying your cards is generally a good thing. So, I don't know, that's all there is to it. Sometimes you need an Izzet Charm, sometimes you need a Chart of Course. Discard the other one to Faithless Looting, cast the one.
I'm having a difficult time to believe that you ever need either of those cards.
Well, you do need a certain density of ways to put Arclight Phoenix in the graveyard.
That I understand.
Yeah, and those are the next two best options, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a pretty low barrel.
Not
a lot going on there.
I did a deep dive on Gatherer.
Same.
Came up
and
empty.
around.
The second Lightning Axe is good, though.
Yeah.
So,
is it?
Well, if it's not, you discard the first Lightning Axe
Is
to
it?
it.
You know,
I get it.
like the Phoenix deck
Yeah.
that I'm branding.
You're learning.
What do we got over there, Ryan?
We have an extremely keepable hand.
Extremely keepable.
I believe they call it a snap keep in these parts.
I have a fine hand. Could get punished in this matchup, but I think it's a keep.
Okay. We're going to take any more questions? We could go. Gonna fight.
Let's get into it.
All right. Cavern of Souls. I'll name Spirit.
That's lucky.
Wanderer.
Okay, I will crack fetch, go to 17 for Steam Events, and cast Serum Visions
Resolves.
straight into your Mausoleum Wanderer.
I would consider countering Faithless Lootings at various points in this matchup, but unless I am really far ahead, I don't think I'm interested in tagging a Serum Visions.
Countering Serum Visions just feels so bad, right? Like, how many cantrips did they have to ban for this to be the one we're even playing? And then also, you're spending a resource answering it. That's like admitting it's a good card.
Right? I don't have it in me.
No. No.
Don't have it in me.
Not in a million years.
Send both of those to the bottom. Don't need those.
Don't need or don't want.
Both.
Mhm.
Ross, I have a question. Well, Chad has a question.
What is it?
I'm asking a question for Chad is what I'm getting at here. Why don't you have maximized velocity?
It only plays well with Crackling Drake and is thus too narrow to be worth a slot.
It doesn't play horrendously with Thing in the Ice. It's
Yeah,
2 spells.
Sure.
It's only 1 spell for Crackling Drake. I will cast Selfless Spirit and attack for 2.
I'm at 15.
It's your turn.
I think that card's a lot better in the Bedlam Reveler decks.
It exiles from your
yes.
graveyard, though.
I will cast it.
Because you can set up to have this
Yep.
hasty Bedlam Reveler for 3 mana.
You
It's what we call a power play.
gonna make a land drop this turn, Ross?
Nope.
All right, you're probably dead
I
pretty
don't
quickly
think
here.
my next cantrip is going to resolve. But I do have the techie discard Arclight Phoenix to hand size.
Oh, wow.
You know, sometimes you keep a 1 land Serum Vision Sand on the draw and you brick. Attack for 6.
Got you
I'm
at
at
9. Your turn.
I will play an opt.
Yeah, go off, dude. Whatever. I don't think I'm in any risk of losing this game if your next 5 spells resolve.
That's not a
I'd
land.
actually be surprised if you could cast 5 spells.
If my next 5 spells resolve, then I'm transforming a Thing in the Ice.
Whoa. You get a 3/2 for those 5 spells. That's like a 6th spell.
That's a good point.
Really want to draw a red source off that opt, but I guess we'll make do with that one.
Hmm.
Am I dead?
We have a word for that in the industry. It's beats.
I mean, you got 7 on board right
I
now.
can shove for a kill. I can make this. Like,
What are you scared of?
I'm not scared of anything. You're the coward. We've been over this. I'm gonna cast Collected Company.
That's fine. Yeah, if
Did
you
you
hit
just
2
call
spirits, I'm
someone
dead.
else a coward?
Yeah, I think when we went over it, the conclusion was that you're the coward.
And you're the dead one.
Yeah, that is the benefit of being the coward. You tend to live.
Listen, the difference between bravery and stupidity is the final result, if we're being honest.
I don't know what you just said.
It's that really long Teddy Roosevelt quote about knowing neither victory nor defeat, like the man in the arena. Something like that.
Mhm.
Wow, Ross.
That's the
you're
guy that
very-
rides the moose.
I wouldn't use the present tense, but sure.
Did you ever see the documentary Hanging with Teddy?
I have not.
It's an old black and white film with Teddy Roosevelt out hunting, and you just get to watch.
That sounds pretty delightful,
I got
actually.
to watch it in history class in high school. It was an experience because you get to see the humor from back then, and there's swing piano the whole time, and you don't really know what's going on, but it looks like he's having a good time.
You ever thought about having like a Dispel or a Spell Pierce in your 75?
I have 2 Dispels and a Spell Pierce in my sideboard.
Okay. Well, it's just like that's something to think about. Like I don't lose to it in that situation, but you had blue mana up.
Sure. Yeah, I've gone back and forth about whether or not I want to bring them in this matchup, and I just think having a reactive card is not where you want to be.
The specific texture of this matchup, I don't know intimately well. I'm talking more from experience with different blue decks, but I historically have liked 1 Dispel against this deck.
Yeah. I've never brought in both, but the first I is a real consideration.
Speaking of 1 mana blue spells, Ross, have you ever thought of putting Delvers in the deck?
I think Delver is just a worse threat than Monastery Swiftspear as far as a 1 mana cheap creature. Swiftspear, consistently attacks for more damage. And being a haste threat later in the game is pretty relevant. Like your hand stays pretty stocked, so it's not that difficult to just cast it on turn 4 or 5 and it immediately attack for 4 or 5 damage.
It combines a lot better with Thing in the Ice as well.
Yeah, it was quite good as a late game haste threat against Brad in our quarterfinals match. You can see that one in game 1, and in my semifinals against Max Medeiros against Grixis Shadow, game 3, which was also on camera, on turn 3, facing down a Gurmag Angler. I cast a Swift Spear, made it a 5/6, returned a Phoenix, and attacked for 8. That was not something Delver's Secrets would have done.
No. Takes a couple turns to hit that hard.
Yeah. I'm going to be on the play for game 3.
Reasonable.
And hopefully I play a second land. I guess I did play a second land in game 2.
Yeah.
Hopefully I
Careful
play a
what
third
you
land.
wish for.
Got any more great questions? Maybe more for the room over there?
So many great questions.
So many.
What do you think is the most fun Magic format right now out of Modern, Standard, and Legacy?
I can't choose Brawl.
Out of Modern and Standard and Legacy.
Got to pay attention to the question, Ryan. Come on.
I was clarifying, they maybe the asker wants to amend their question.
I'm
Did
like
she
A, B,
stutter?
or C, and you're just like, I would like F, please.
Yeah, not even D.
Yeah.
We're all the way to
no,
F.
no. We're a ways.
Cube draft.
I think Standard is super interesting right now, but I haven't played a ton of it, so...
I think that I prefer Modern to Standard currently, and Legacy is going to be pretty squarely in third place of the selection. I think the big reason for me is I think that Teferi and Niv Mizzet are kind of relevant blights on the Standard format, where generally things are pretty excellent, but those two things lead to some pretty disinteresting games.
I really like Standard. That's probably my favorite one to play right now. And 6 months ago, me would have been shocked.
Yeah.
You were pretty happy to jump in on that one. Didn't answer what Cyborg card.
Whoa,
Yeah,
whoa.
Sorry, I don't like
This hand is
embarrassing
not
myself.
remotely keepable.
Oh, okay. Well, my hand's pretty good.
That's
so.
unfortunate.
Respect mulligan procedure, Ross.
Yeah.
Now we got time for more questions. That's
I would
good.
have kept that in with one land if it made green mana. But
So the old basic planes again?
that was Hallowed Fountain, so it was a little better.
Okay.
Why is Ryan Overturf not playing a bad Grixis deck?
I'm
Give
going to next time. Just wait like 10 minutes.
No, that's a good Grixis deck, not a Ryan Overturf Grixis
You're
deck.
right. That's a fair point.
We need to play some Grixis Delver.
Like, think of all the good hands that Grixis Shadow deck can have. Take them all out, and then put your name on the deck list.
I'm
and
into
just
it. Yeah.
Chef's kiss.
What are the great cards I should cut to make room for some spell snares?
Spell Snare is a great card. I'm with you on that one.
Nice. Big
So-
fan.
A question I've got a few times is basically, to toot my own horn a little bit, have had a lot of call the correct thing in a rows on the what we'd play, and last week I talked about thinking linear decks are really good, KCI specifically. But going into the Invitational weekend in Grand Prix Portland, what do you all think about linear decks in Modern? Do you think that we should stay looking at those decks or look at something else?
I would say that we're in a phase of the metagame where linear decks are more dominant than non-linear decks, but I wouldn't necessarily say you have to choose a linear deck. I think there are 3 pillars right now that form the top tier of the format, and they are Faithless Looting, Ancient Stirrings, and Noble Hierarch. So if you want to play fair, you should put Noble Hierarch in your deck. I'm generally of the mind that Bant Spirits is better than Humans, so I would lean towards that. If you want to play Ancient Stirrings, I think Ironworks is the best option. And if you want to play Faithless Looting, well, good for you. That card's great. You should probably play this deck because it's also great.
It is a nice Faithless Looting deck. I had a stretch where I played just Grixis control, do nothing, get you eventually with Snapcaster Mage or Creeping Tar Pit, what have you. And I just, unless the format changes dramatically, I don't want to touch the categorically non-linear decks for the foreseeable future. I want to play something strictly linear, or at least linear adjacent light interaction. I would consider your deck, it spells matter, it's doing one specific thing, but some of those spells kill your opponent's creatures. That's where I want to be.
Yep. Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree with you. I think KCI is pretty bad going into this weekend when we look at the SCG Tour, and the biggest deck in the format is a deck that packs as many as 4 Stony Silence in their sideboard. That is, Mox Opal's great when people think it's bad.
Yeah.
So that's, people don't think it's bad right now, so that means it is bad right now.
Yeah.
Is your 6 remotely keepable?
I've already scryed to the top.
We've already scryed to the top. Man, I missed that one. That was a fast scry.
It was a good one.
Yeah, must be a good one.
I'm going to draw it.
I'm going to start on a Spire Bluff Canal. You can draw that good card.
All right. I'm going to cast this Ether Vial.
Ether Vial, that's pretty good.
That's all I got.
I'll play an Opt.
Resolves.
And let's bottom that one. Looking for a very specific set of cards here. That one I'll...
Is it Faithless? Is it Manamorphose, Faithless Looting, Arclight Phoenix, Opt?
Abrade that vial.
Yikes. I'll activate in response.
Sure.
All right.
Got a Memnite?
Nope.
Pass the turn.
Dryad Arbor ramp, boy.
Okay. That draw means that I can use this a little differently.
You can do what differently?
There's an argument to try to play this hand slowly, but I don't think that your deck is very forgiving on that front. I think against a deck like Jeskai, I'd be more inclined to try to be really tricky. Whereas with this deck, I think I'm just supposed to check you early and often. So that said, I will go to 19.
Okay. Does that mean we're playing a Supreme Phantom?
I believe that will be the situation. You have 5 in hand over there.
5 cards.
Second Abrade, third Abrade. Phantom go.
Okay, this is an interesting turn for me. That was not a great draw. I think this is the turn where we fire this off, trying to find what we need, and
Izzet Charm? Ooh.
Gonna Manamorphose. I'm gonna make red blue. Good chance I can chain a cantrip here.
Storms at 1.
Oof. Bolt the Supreme Phantom with blue floating and pass the turn.
All right.
This has been an awkward series of draws.
Didn't want to draw the card, shouldn't have put them in your deck.
Got him. So this hand kind of telegraphs itself when I try to be clever with it, which is not the most inviting thing. I think given his mana development, I just want to run this out. And then we'll go from there. That makes the most sense to me.
You saw what happened when you were a coward.
I'm not sure which one of these lines is the most cowardly, right?
Well, don't do that one. Don't worry about it. And if you win, it probably wasn't cowardly. And if you lose, it was probably cowardly.
It's not hesitated to destroy any permanent, non-land permanent I've committed to the battlefield so far. Doesn't have lands.
Hey, I have 2 lands. They're right here.
Oh, you're right. This is where I want to be. Go ahead.
Got him.
Huh.
So you're saying there's a chance.
I don't think I need to spew anything, so I'll just pass the turn.
Ooh. Now who's the coward?
We can slow play our hand as well.
Yeah.
19 all.
Hollow Fountain tapped. You go.
Okay. Still no need to spew anything. Pass the turn. Not under a lot of pressure here.
I like this no spew interchange we got going on.
Yeah. There's no collected company on that side, or that land would have entered untapped, I believe. 18.
Maybe I was making the cowardly play.
Maybe.
Go ahead.
I am going to play a Manamorphose.
I will cast a Spell Queller.
I will respond to Spell Queller with a Gut Shot on the Wanderer, going to 16.
Let's mark that real quick. And you have 5 in hand?
5 in hand.
I will sacrifice this, targeting that.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
What happens now?
Yeah, I guess I should have gut shot it first.
I
I didn't really think too hard about it.
noticed.
Oof. Oof.
You have 3 in hand?
Correct.
Okay, you got me.
Nice.
Lightning X or Queller. Discard a Phoenix. Return the Phoenix and wish you. Get an island.
Yep.
You can go. I still feel reasonably... still feel fine about that exchange because we're relatively even on material. I get the card back off the path. As the game goes along, eventually I'll assemble something more powerful.
Presumably. You have 3 in hand now.
Yes.
That burn from Ryan was pretty hot, though. There's got to be some sort of nerve damage.
I'm pretty comfortable sitting tight for a second here. So I'm going to play that Horizon Canopy and we'll be back on you.
I mean, I guess if I gut shot first, maybe you try to Queller in response. That would have still been awkward for me. You got 2 in hand over there?
Correct.
Okay. Let's start the parade of phoenixes since I can't draw Faithless Looting.
The old Snare Thopter.
Cast the Spell Queller.
Pass the turn.
Crack this.
Yep.
Ooh. So this is a tenuous situation pertaining to Anger of the Gods. You have 3 in hand.
That's correct.
Missed a land drop, but just Faithless Looting deck, so that's kind of a null tell. My heart says shove.
But you're a coward.
But your body.
But I'm such a coward.
Ryan, 5 minutes ago at the beginning of this. I think I just have to check him every turn and being slow would get punished. Ryan, just now.
Checking on Lightning Bolt versus checking on Anger of the Gods are dramatically different scenarios.
Are you checking or not?
So I'm already so bad against Lightning Bolt, and he's way less likely to have Anger that I'm going to cast both of these and come in for 3.
13.
And you're up.
All right. Punish his hubris.
See, he runs the full range from arrogant to cowardly.
It depends entirely on context.
There's no dig that you cannot not make on this man.
Ah, yes, one of my favorite people. What if I say mean things always?
Hold the captain.
I suppose that resolves.
Faithless Looting.
I suppose that resolves as well.
Discard Island Arclight Phoenix.
Yep.
Serum Visions.
Yep.
We can keep one, bottom the other.
Don't like that.
Let's return this Phoenix. And right now I'm...
16?
No, I am losing this race. This Phoenix is playing defense.
Rats.
Which is pretty common in this matchup.
Yeah. Not terrible. I clearly don't have any attacks without shaking anything up here. I'll cast Thalia, Guardian of Thraben.
Sure.
Pass turn. Things stay relatively the same. Thalia at least gets to get some good hits in.
I will play a Thing in the Ice.
Yep. That makes it so Thalia is less good at attacking.
I will pass the turn.
Do you think Phoenix being able to block was just a straight up design mistake? Like, the card's obviously pushed, right? But that's pretty egregious when you look at, like, Flamewake Phoenix and co.
Yeah, maybe you're supposed to give it that ability where, like, has to attack every turn.
Yeah.
Thing is, there's a lot of text already on this card.
You're forced to do very specific things. Some of them are quite powerful. I mean, Lightning Bolt, Faithless Looting are some of the better cards in the format. Manamorphose actually really strong.
Got 2 in hand over there.
I do.
It's been a very interesting game. These games have played out very differently than my previous matches in this matchup. In part due to some awkward draws on my part, but
Same. Actually wants to play this because of an awkward mana thing. Then I'm gonna pass. Can't really bluff a pump spell against that thing in the ice.
on your end step, I'm gonna pay 2 life to gutshot that trigger thing.
So you're at 11.
Yep.
This is dead.
Awkward that I have to pay 2 life and still the mana so I can get around the Wanderer, but you do what you gotta do. Huh. You got 1 in hand over there?
Correct.
I'll pass the turn.
I'll crack this to 18.
Is that a collected company you got?
yeah, like I have a good card.
I was going to say, collected company probably would have been main phase there.
Yeah.
Find a lord to attack.
Right.
Outside of the fact that blue-red probably has the prettiest duels in Modern, why is it over mono-red for the Phoenix decks?
The power of Thing in the Ice and the consistency of cantrips that make your Arclight Phoenixes much easier to return. The mono-red decks are basically glorified burn decks. They get some staying power from Reveler, but it's really hard for them to rebuy Phoenixes more than the first time, because they just empty their hand pretty quickly. I do think the mono-red versions are good decks. I just like this more. There's a little bit more play to it, a little bit more interaction with it, and Thing in the Ice is really powerful right now.
You have 2 cards in hand?
2 cards.
I'm not really seeing a compelling reason not to shove.
Coco's good.
It's because my cards are bad. Spellquiller Mausoleum Wanderer. Alright, so the other Wanderer is a 3 now. Still not super interested in trading it. That might be all the better it gets. If you're bringing Phoenix back, that already means you're transforming Thing in the Ice.
What was the reason to Sorcery Speed Company over doing it on Ross's turn?
I want to try to get attacks now.
Yeah, if it finds a Lord there and another thing.
Yeah, Phantom or
then both those
Captain
creatures
means
get to attack.
Spellqueller gets a good attack.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And Lord plus another Spirit makes this a 4/4 as well. So you'd have a
Yeah.
7-point attack. Bring me to 4.
Yeah, I mean, that's like 7 points of damage minimum.
Yeah, I'm just going to do this thing.
Okay, I'll block.
Yep. You're up.
Anger. Trigger.
Pay 1 more.
Gladly. Cast this Arclight Phoenix.
Yep.
Attack for 3.
15.
Pass the turn.
Need some hot ones.
Yeah.
Go.
Interesting. Though that is pretty excellent. Manamorphose, trigger Thing in the Ice.
Yep.
Make red blue.
Mhm.
And so I can flashback the Faithless Looting that is in my graveyard, but that's gonna tap me out because I want to play a 3rd spell to recur these Phoenixes. So I'll just play this one that I just drew, which is perfect since it returns the Phoenix as I return it.
So you got at least 13 coming at me.
That is the plan.
That's pretty strong.
I thought so. We have 1 island left in the deck, so let's discard that Phoenix and that land. Play this fetch, crack it to 10.
So, Ryan, what's your plan on turning this game around when you're at actual 0 life?
0 is going to make it tough. I was having trouble with 15, to be entirely honest, so going to have to do something in here.
Okay.
I'm not going to cut your deck, Ross.
You're a champion now, Ross. You don't have to do this anymore.
I'm not
We
going to
regularly
cut your
don't do
deck
that.
when I'm dead.
But it's very often that the person just presents their deck out of habit.
Sure.
So flashback to looting that's in my graveyard. That's the third spell. I guess we'll keep this Crackling Drake because it seems good.
Sure. So I get to stabilize it too?
Stop! He's already dead.
Yep. Attack for 13. We got 10 to 2.
Can I draw
Path
3
turn.
Path Exiles? Oh, no.
Yeah,
Cavern
see.
of Souls. All right, so I'm supposed to pass and let you attack me for 13 is
Yep.
the etiquette? Oh, I cast these. We're still
Yeah,
playing. I forgot.
You cast those, and then I draw my card, and I'll Serum Visions.
Oh, that seems important.
Yes. Ooh, another Crackling Drake. That's pretty good. Anamorphose is probably a fine one to have.
That costs 2 mana. Did you tap 2?
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah.
Good
okay.
call. Good
I'm gonna-
call.
We're going to get you a
Whoa.
warning for that.
We'll play a Crackling
You know,
Drake and
all
draw a
right.
card.
We better just rewind. Let's go back to our opening hands.
Let's do a check on this just to be sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15, 16. Okay, I better mark that one just to make the game state clear.
That's more life than I had last turn.
Yeah. Seems a little bit better than Bedlam Reveler.
You don't have to make Ryan watch this. You can just kill him.
Bedlam Level might have drawn you into land Lightning Bolt, though.
That's true.
That's lethal.
Ryan would
attack
be
you with
so
my
dead.
three.
All
Creatures.
right, so these are my blocks.
Okay, I have no effects.
Okay, damage.
first
I go
strike
to.
damage
I go
first.
to. Yep, that was okay. Then regular damage.
Yeah.
I go to -1.
Okay.
Is it my turn?
No, the game's over. That's
So
how the game
here's
works.
the thing about Magic the Gathering. I know normally the matches just end while you're watching and you just kind of play it by ear.
True.
But
Well, yeah, it's not over until they tell me they're cutting back.
Oh,
That's how I know.
So you saw in that third game, while my draw was not very explosive because I didn't draw looting until well into the game, I was able to just keep pace with my removal spells. Ryan was never able to get a lot of traction and start being aggressive. And at that point, he wasn't really able to leverage his spells as effectively as he would have liked. In order to gain that traction, he main faced the Collected Company, made an attack to try to get somewhere, and that ends up playing into the anger.
Well, the thing about it too is your Haymaker, Anger of the Gods. Sometimes I can outpace it, sometimes I can't. But it's a Haymaker that you have immediate control over. If that company finds 2 lords, the game's over, and I won.
I can just transform my thing in the ice.
The Mausoleum. Well, yeah, but then I just cast them again, and then
But unless you can cast, well,
I think I'm doing really well if I have a good hit on the company.
sure.
2 lords, you're at like
Yeah, I'm also pretty dead. And
You're
my
like
hand was
no
land
life.
anger. I
Yeah.
probably would have died.
Yeah.
well, when you put it
But
that
I wouldn't
way.
have been cold.
That's true. We'd still be playing anyway. But yeah, I like the Spirit deck quite a lot. I feel like some of my draws were pretty poor. The game one hand and more seasoned Spirits player might have mulliganed. I think it's really good against the combo decks, though. Like, it's the kind of hand that this deck just kind of keeps.
Yeah.
I think maybe should have played the Violon one.
I thought about that. I kind of wanted to get out of the gates faster, and the hand needed help from the draw step to be a good Vial hand,
Sure.
which maybe I'm just off base there.
Yeah, I think you had 1, 2, so you just get to have both of them in play on turn 2 anyway. So you missed like 2 points of damage, but you have a Violon 2 going into turn 3.
Sure.
Yeah, I would play towards that and just hope the top of my deck is good.
Yeah, that's reasonable. I definitely did not claim to be a Bant Spirits expert.
Look, no one's happy to play Aether Vial. I'm with you. You had to play Plains, you had to play Aether Vial. It's
I like the Plains and Aether Vial.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
we
I think that
forgive
the
you.
deck is quite good. It's tricky to play, which is something that I like. I don't enjoy that the tricky elements are attached to 3 or less toughness creatures. That makes things less interesting. It is quite good against decks like Jeskai, but it's less good against the tempo decks.
Yeah, it can struggle against Jeskai. It's another matchup where you have to get the traction to use your spells effectively. Generally, one of the reasons I like Spirits over Humans right now is that while Humans is supposed to be very good in the combo matchups, the linear matchups, Bant still has a lot of game there. You have a lot of disruptive elements, and then your cards are just a little bit bigger in combat and creature mirrors, and then you have a lot of protection against traditional interaction removal spells and things like that.
And you get to put these cards in your sideboard.
Yeah, and you get a real sideboard.
Yeah.
The real sideboard is not to be underestimated.
Correct.
The human sideboards are just...
You need to tell me Sin Collector may not be an adequate card?
Yeah, the 3-mana 2/1 is...
Yeah.
Hey, that card has duress attached, sort of. Technically, it has text.
That's true.
Technically, all of the creatures have text. Some of it's just flavor text, but
even Memnite has text.
Okay, we are going to take a break in a minute here while we get the second match set up, where Ryan is going to be playing Grixis Shadow. But before we do that, I want to field any remaining questions we have, especially about these two decks.
All right, so if the Phoenix deck is going to be popular, is Reflector Mage going to be a better thing to have in your deck going forward?
Yes, I like Reflector Mage quite a bit. It is excellent against Thing in the Ice. I think most Spirits lists now have moved in the Reflector Mage direction. I think most commonly I see 4 Reflector Mage 2-path.
Mm-hmm.
And I do prefer that. I just went with the highest placing list from the tournament.
There was a turn in our game 1 where I had Path, and I was on the play, and you cast Thing in the Ice, and I sat on it, like you missed a land drop or whatever, and I Reflector Mage there. It's a huge swing for me.
Yeah.
The way the game played, you played a second thing, and I got lucky to draw the second Path, but even it's not like a very impactful spell.
Yeah, it's impactful when you're playing it alongside like a 3-mana Lord when you have 4 mana for those double spell turns, but your turn was just double path your thing. Now the board's at parity.
Right.
It is not impressive. So I do think I would go with Reflector Mage. I think it's just generally better in the deck too by making your Phantasmal Images more impactful, giving you a disruptive element to target with it against creature decks or to copy with it. But it is particularly good against my list, against Thing in the Ice, pretty good against Arclight Phoenix, and good against Crackling Drake. So
right.
So why is Geist of St. Traft in the main deck of the Spirits deck? It kind of a general consensus is that it's only good against control. Is there kind of some truth to that, or is there more that we might be missing?
Only good against control, I think, is misguided. So the deck has a ceiling on the number of creatures that fit in the deck that actually disrupt combo decks, and beyond that, you just have to race. And turn 1, Noble Hierarch, turn 2, Geist of St. Traft on the play is really your best avenue for racing outside of a combination of mini cards that assembles a lot of power. And I think that's why you like the Geist main deck, is it is really strong in the proactive draw. It doesn't actually require a lot of the deck.
It can also, because it's a card that sort of forces a race or forces them to hold back, if they hold back exactly 2 power to block it, they run the risk of running straight into a Lord that really puts them behind. So the threat of your Lords pumping the 2/2 body makes it even more awkward for them to try to play offense against you if they're a creature deck. So it has some effectiveness there. But, I didn't build the deck, so I couldn't give you a more concrete answer. We're just sort of speculating here.
Yeah.
Is Rending Volley good against Izzet Phoenix?
I mean, it's good against Crackling Drake and good against Thing in the Ice, but I don't think you can play cards that are quite that narrow. I guess it's good against Spirits and Humans, too. It's like a blank against a lot of things, which is awkward.
It's a hard sell getting that card in your sideboard, and I think to answer that question, we have to know what your main deck, what's your archetype? What are you trying to squeeze Rending Volley into?
Yeah. You would need to have other removal spells that cover some of the things that Rending Volley misses relative to sideboard removal spells that tend to be more generically applicable.
Mm-hmm.
So like Rending Volley, for instance, doesn't hit Inkmoth Nexus and artifact creatures against Hardened Scales. It doesn't hit Tarmogoyf or Gurmagangler or
even
Death
in
Shadow.
the matchups where it does play, though, it's just part of a plan. It's a 1-for-1 removal spell that does tag relevant things, but without knowing how you're trying to actually win the game, I can't tell you that you want Rending Volley as part of your plan.
Sure. Hard to say there, but I would be wary even if you determine that you need like an extra cheap removal spell, playing that one in a format like Modern that's so wide open is a gamble. You're going to be playing against only the most played decks, and you're missing one in Hardened Scale. So if you feel like you have the slot to dedicate specifically to things like Izzet Phoenix and the Aether Vial Noble Hierarch decks, and you need that slot to be a cheap removal spell, then yeah, I think that's a fine option.
So would Noxious Revival be good in the Phoenix deck as another free spell that can get a cantrip back, or is that too cute?
I haven't tried it. I've heard people talk about it. I've just been so happy with Gutshot right now that I don't feel the need to play any more. I don't think you need more free spells with the way the deck is constructed right now. But with Bant Spirits, Humans, Hardened Scales, and Infect being 4 of the 6 most played decks on day 2 of the Open last weekend, I think Gutshot is just so well positioned and so good.
Yeah, well, you're playing a 0-mana spell because they're letting you play Dark Ritual in Modern. Like
Yeah.
that's what it's there for, right? When you think of the high upside of Noxious Revival, the cards you're buying back are a lot of cards you just have high access to anyway. You have a ton of cantrips in your deck. You're not generally hurting for cantrips. That kind of stuff's just available to you, and your lightning bolts are pretty available to you as well because you're so high on cantrips. Whereas the upside on Gutshot is sometimes your opponent loses to it because it's a 0-mana kill spell.
Yes, so that I think that's a great point. Very high upside in Gutshot, not very high upside in Noxious Revival. The wary that Revival really helps is when you're like have cantrip plus it, and you need the 3rd spell for Phoenix. And if that is just another spell, you can just cantrip into a spell, which is pretty easy. It's like half your deck, and that situation doesn't even come up that often. So yeah, I'm just all in on Gutshot.
Okay, so last question here to kind of take us into our break. If you were playing in a high-level Modern tournament tomorrow, what deck would you bring and why? We know, Ross. We know. Ryan.
I've been messing around with a Grixis build of the Phoenix deck. I haven't tried it yet, but no offense, I'm not sold on Crackling Drake just yet. I think that there is just a ton to experiment with the deck. I think because you won the Open, that will be the stock deck, at least immediately. But the deck is so customizable. Point that you alluded to when you talked about having Izzet Charm and Chart a Course, just adding 1 or 2 copies of a card to your deck dramatically changes what the deck's able to do. And I've been really happy with Collective Brutality in my testing. There's a lot of matchups I think that card is just really powerful in. And I think if you're talking about a card to put Arclight Phoenix into your graveyard, I think it's more powerful than Izzet Charm and Chart a Course by quite a bit.
Yeah, just converts it into like an interactive spell mode.
Yep. I like some of the things it does for the sideboard as well. Obviously, Ross is the one that won the Open, so maybe go with his list for now. But I do think that there is some customizability still available to the deck.
100% agree. Brutality, very good card. Had it in my sideboard in Las Vegas, and it was good there. I could see messing around with more of a heavy splash. I'm wary of adding too many colors because of the need to chain spells.
Yep.
You don't want to stretch your mana base. Manamorphose certainly helps that a lot. I definitely cast Brutality off Manamorphose quite a bit and just avoided getting the Water Grave entirely.
Yep. That is a problem that I've had. Is basic Swamp is horrendous.
Yes. I would not put a basic Swamp in my deck.
Yeah.
But Collective Brutality is definitely. I will 100% agree that's a better card than Chart a Course and Izzet Charm, which are easily the 2 worst cards in my list.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Arclight Phoenix.
It's a good one. Hope you bought them when they were $5.
Yeah. Okay. We are going to take a 10-minute break here while we set up for the second match where Ryan will be playing Grixis Shadow. Should be a little bit more at home.
A little more my speed.
With that deck, but please join us then.